Hi there, it's Sarah. Let's do this. Around 2 months ago, I got my first job. I've been working at a local hospital in my town. I mostly organize files and whatnot. Not overly exciting, but it pays. It's much better than jobs some of my friends have. My best friend has told me horror stories from her job in fast food. I work a night shift, 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., which is a little rough. Luckily, it's summer, so I don't need to sleep for school right now. The thing is, there's some weird crap that happens after midnight around here. When I first started, some other night shifters warned me that there may be some strange things happening and to just ignore them if they do. I've actually experienced a few of these events, and they scared the absolute pants off me. The first one I had was someone we affectionately called Chainsaw Guy. Calling him that makes him sound a little like the antagonist of a slasher film, but it's really more of a description. So the first time I encountered him was actually on my second day without supervision. I was putting some old files in order when I caught something passing by the door out of the corner of my eye. I turned my head to see if it was my night shift supervisor, but I didn't recognize the man I saw. I know he couldn't be cleaning staff since he wasn't wearing the hideous uniform. I may have forgotten to mention this, but the building I work in is actually across the street from the actual hospital where the patients are. This made it highly unlikely that he was a lost patient. I actually wanted to ignore him since it wasn't my job to deal with intruders, but I also didn't want to be blamed for loss or destruction of hospital property. I went to the doorway and said, in as polite a tone I could muster at 1 a.m. on a Wednesday, "Hey, you can't be here." He didn't even turn around. He only muttered, "Jameson, Walter, 9/18/71, chainsaw accident." Then he repeated it. He just continued mumbling, and I had to raise my voice to be heard. "You need to leave. This area is for employees only." His mantra halted suddenly as he came to a jerking stop in the middle of the hallway. He turned around to face me. Slowly, I realized with a start that his shirt was soaked in blood. Then I saw his face and forgot all about his shirt. His face, if it can even be described that way, was a mess of bloody flesh and muscle dangling grotesquely from his skull. With one eye missing from its socket, I stared in screamless shock for a couple of seconds before a shriek forced its way from my throat. He shook his mangled head in apparent pain and bolted into the next open door. When I recovered from my initial shock, I realized that he was terribly injured and needed immediate medical attention. So I braced myself and followed him into the room. But he was gone, vanished into thin air. The next night, I asked my shift manager about it. Yeah, he said, taking a drag on his cigarette. Just ignore him. He was absolutely zero help, so I instead asked another woman on my shift. "This used to be the ER," my coworker said quietly, before they expanded. I was a receptionist at that time. One night, a man was carried in by a group of what I assume were his friends. Seemed to barely have a face left. He died in the hallway on the way to the surgery, the very hall you work in. "Did he say anything before he died?" I asked, morbidly curious. "Yeah, he kept repeating the same thing over and over. Eventually, we figured out that he was trying to tell us his name, birth date, and how he got so terribly injured. He was saying, 'Jameson, Walter, 9/18/71, chainsaw accident.'" I finished. "I've seen him a couple times since then, and ignored him like the supervisor told me to. Old Walter ignores me right back, but he's not the only one I worry about."